There's so much trouble in the world, isn't there? Worldwide, there was a corona pandemic. For many people, it was an ordeal. Just when you think things are going to be okay, a war erupts in Europe. Bombs and shells, wounded people, refugees. What a suffering for the Ukrainians. By the way, maybe you are suffering too. It started out silly, just a quick visit to the doctor. And before you knew it, the doctor had a bad news conversation with you. What is the cause of this suffering? This is a question which has preoccupied the world for a long time. The Bible shows the way. Initially, there was no suffering at all because man was obedient to God. There was peace, rest, and certainly no suffering. However, we humans turned out to be unwilling to obey what God asked us. As a result, things went wrong. Distance came between God and us. That is sin, and thus came suffering. Therefore, suffering is there due to sin. By this, we don't mean something such as it is a shame when the milk boils over. However, the concept of sin is related to disobedience to God. We have a problem regarding our relationship with God, which is broken due to these sins. Can this still be made right? Fortunately, it is possible. Just listen to what has happened. Around the beginning of the era, Jesus lives in Palestine. He is the son of a carpenter from Nazareth, an ordinary person. You don't see anything extraordinary about him, but he is extraordinary. He is a prophet and he does miracles of healing. He made the blind see, he makes the deaf hear again, cripples by his doing walk again. When he arrives in Jerusalem, a frenzied crowd shouts, "Hosanna!" However, when he fails to meet the expectations of an earthly leader, intense hatred arises. A few days later, many of the same people cry out, "Crucify him!" They don't want this man to sanctify them. They don't need him for that. You might recognize this, hatred from family, etc. That's terrible. It kills you. Well, so does Jesus. They beat him and spit on him, and finally he dies on the cross. Now that we mention suffering, people still marvel about Jesus' suffering in the weeks prior to Easter. Jesus wasn't suffering for himself. He suffers out of love for those who love him. He pays for their disobedience. When Jesus pays for your debt, it makes you ecstatic beyond measure. You can't think about paying for that debt yourself, can you? There's something else. When you have to go through suffering yourself, sometimes you get stuck. The perspective of your suffering will be different when you confess your disobedience and get into a relationship with God. The suffering that happens to you is out of proportion to the joy and the gladness that awaits when your life ends. Then you will arrive at a place where there's no more sorrow and tears. But even more, you arrive at a place where Jesus is. Then you may be always with him. This is the joyful message we would like to convey today. We are open for further discussion if you'd like to. Call us at 0623 82 7798 or send an email to deblijdeboodschap@gerealexanderpolder.nl. Thank you for listening and see you next time.